Hello, my name is Tabs and welcome. Right, let's start again. Hello, my name is Tabs and welcome to episode 101 of the Grove podcast. Now, I hope you're all doing well and gently easing yourselves into the off season. So look, the league season is over, and I, for one, am quite thankful it finally is. We signed off with a win away to Southampton, finishing second overall, and it feels like it's been a bit of a slog the last few weeks, even months, and it's been a season or a few ups and downs, mostly downs, but got a few ups that I think we'll talk about today. And I think it's quite appropriate that our end of season episode is number 101, as I think there are many fans out there that would like to consign this season to Room 101. So joining me on the pod today, hopefully he's still there. Are you still there? He's disappeared for a second.
I am, sorry, mate. I'm just doing a very quick speed test because it just seemed to drop off for a sec then, but hopefully it's just temporary.
Okay, let me see if I can. We'll keep going, but it was just into my big introduction of who you can hear. So joining me on the pod today to ask is Big Brother very much like Mikel Arteta? Are we going to be punished for his thought crimes? And am I going to be accused of doublethink? Is Jamie? How are you doing? And have you got any more Orwellian 1984 parallels and references you can think of?
Not off the top of my head, no. Not one of these I prepped for, to be honest.
No way, that introduction was presented to you by ChatGPT, so thank you. Right, God, let's get on with this nonsense. I think we're all a bit doolally now. It's the end of the season, and I think I'll take another sip of my Sauvignon Blanc. Anyway, look, in today's show, we'll briefly talk about the Southampton Kieran Tierney testimonial, and then we'll do a bit of a season review, dishing out some end-of-season awards, which is basically the only awards our players are going to be getting this season. So, but before we get... Jesus, is everything all right? Before we get on with that, we have to mention the fact that the women are European champions for the second time, beating Barcelona 1-0 in Lisbon on Saturday evening. An incredible result and an incredible achievement by the Arsenal women's team. So, Jamie, were you able to watch that? Did you catch it? And have you caught any of the celebrations? Any thoughts, comments?
I did catch it. It was brilliant. I was dead jealous of those that I knew that went over. Seems like they had an absolutely fantastic time. I'm going to be arriving in Lisbon a week too late, unfortunately. So I arrived there this Friday instead. But yeah, I think it will be I thought it was a fantastic game. Obviously, second European Cup now for the club is incredible, and to do it now certainly any time in the last 10 years is very, very special because it's been absolutely dominated by Barcelona and Lyon, hasn't it? And to beat this Barcelona team in the style it was done was great. And yeah, just team full of heroes, right? It was lovely to see. I also loved seeing Chloe Kelly turning up in the Tollington, apparently.
Yes,
for the celebration, which I thought was superb, and just how. I think we were mentioning just before we kicked off, right, just how Jack Grealish, Katie McCabe decided to go as well. So,
Well, it was more not Jack Grealish, but very Jack Wilshere, I think you mean.
Yes, that's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, so during I'm pretty sure she was on the mimosas that morning, and during a rendition of "We Are the Champions," she did the "What do you think of Tottenham" chant, which was fantastic to see. So no, an incredible season for them. I think it's the first team to have won the Champions League having got through the qualifiers. And you're talking about that Barcelona team. I think they won 5 of the previous 6, and they were on for the three-peat this on Saturday. And the fact that they come back from like defeats to Bayern Munich 5-2 in the group stages and coming back against Real Madrid and Lyon, and it's amazing. Look, I cannot profess to be an avid follower. I watch when I can, and I like doing it, and it's nice. But I feel like a bit on the outside looking in. It feels a little bit distant. But I must admit, I was really surprised how sort of emotional it made me feel just seeing them and their celebration and stuff like that. So it's a bit of sort of living through it vicariously, or just sort of like, I don't know if I feel a fraud trying to sort of get in on the celebrations because we're so invested in the men's team and it's sort of a bit distant. But I also think we do try and have this one club sort of sentiment around Arsenal. So I think there's no harm in embracing it and enjoying it. But what it did make me really feel is like, my God, if and when it happens to the men's team, I'm going to be an absolute wreck. So it's they've shown the way.
Yeah, it was fantastic to see. I know exactly what you mean by sometimes feeling a little bit of a fraud as well. I maybe watch about 5 or 6 games a year, go to 1 or 2 of the women's, and it's great to see. But I think for me, I feel a lot more attached ever since they've been at the Emirates the majority of the time, and no longer kind of sat out there at Barnet. And I think that's really made it the sort of the one club thing. And I think that's a little different to me, at least this time round as well for them too. So yeah, amazing to see.
It's great. It's great to see. So look, well done, and enjoy your mimosas. And apparently, Katie McCabe was meant to be at on international duty on Friday. Yeah, good luck with that.
I thought you were going to say at court then.
Well, I don't know what she's been up to. I'm not saying anything. Right. What happens in Lisbon stays in Lisbon. Right. Anyway. So we did actually have the small match of an end of season game against Southampton away at St Mary's, and as we always do, we go through our highlight and lowlight of the game. So, Jamie, what was your highlight, and why was it Kieran Tierney's goal?
Kieran Tierney's goal, absolutely. I mean, what a cracking way to send yourself off, right? Emotions, the whole lot. It was lovely to see. So yeah. Absolutely delighted for the lad, and it just makes you wish that he could stay and wish that he never got injured, and wish maybe that Arteta never got so kind of desperately keen on the inversion as well, because I think there's been times he's played with more traditional left backs that KT would have fitted in nicely to in the last couple of years, that unfortunately just KT had no momentum and no fitness to be able to capitalise on, right? But it was great. And I mean, what's that? Is it 6 years? I think KT's had it as well, right? He's pre-COVID.
2019 he joined, age 22.
You know,
I didn't realise how long ago it was.
Well, who else do we have around the squad that's been there for 6 years now? I think after, with Xhaka having already left, is there anyone else that's longer serving as a senior player?
As a senior player. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Gabriel might have been the same summer, might he? Was that?
No, he might have been 1 year later. I'm pretty sure. He was there, like, I'm sure, like with the likes of I can't even remember them. They're so bad. I've blocked them out of the memory. Socrates and like when we're having Rob Holding in defence and stuff like that. Maybe he was.
He just rescued me from my nightmare of Sai Kolasinac, right? Yeah. I know technically more of a Monreal replacement in a way, but Monreal had been injured so much, and Kolasinac and then been playing centre half when he had a chance. Yeah. And I think if you look back at his career, some of his best moments, actually, weirdly for KT, were probably when he played left centre half, right? Yeah. And that's where he played in the cup run, and was absolutely pivotal that season. Gave us some of our best memories. The Sheffield United goal, I think it was in particular.
There was one the West Brom in the snow, short sleeves in the snow.
Oh, that's it, not Sheffield United. It was West Brom. Yeah. That's the game I'm thinking of in particular. That I don't think I'll never forget that one. And also, it was his pass that set Aubameyang through for the cup final winning goal, I think.
Oh, really?
I'm sure it was his lofted pass, wasn't it?
Wow.
If it wasn't, then I'm bang out and massively making that up.
Oh,
but I'm sure
we'll give it to him. Don't worry. Let's give it to him. But look, he is much loved at the club. He's the traditional left back, no nonsense, and he's the complete antithesis of your flash footballer. You know, Tesco carrier bag is the meme, but it's an actual thing versus your Gucci $6,000 boot bag. And I think he's endeared himself to fans, just his demeanor, his attitude, even in the Amazon documentary and stuff. You sort of like, you could sense there was a bit of homesickness there, and in terms of settling into living around London, I'm not too sure if it was his thing. So I think there was a bit of a connection there. And look, he said he was going to score, and he did. And then even Arteta said, look, the doors of this football club are open to him. He's someone very, very liked at the club, and that's true. And you're right. I mean, he's only played 104 games, of which 68 were starts. So and that's in what, 6 years. That's not a lot, and he's just not been able to build a career. He's been injury hit, and then the team has evolved past him, and he did try to adapt, but everyone has their limitations. He knows what he is, and so on. But he's going to return back to Celtic, city he loves and a club that he loves, and we all wish him the best. So good luck.
Kind of sod's law. I think this is the first season he's been injury free the entire year. Whilst
Yeah.
also we desperately needed a left back at one point, and then it just so happens out you get the 18-year-old out of the academy that I'm sure we're going to come on to talk about.
Well,
he turns out to be, sort of
exactly.
instead of pops himself up there as a top 3 Premier League left back in the space of about 6 months. But
it is what it is. Yeah. Look. I think injuries have just been the downfall, and it's just the way it is. But I think he can go back to Scotland, head held up high. Gave it a go. I didn't mean it's like that, but he's experienced it.
patronising bastard.
No, I was trying not to be, but you know what it mean. It didn't work out, and I think he's just going back. I do feel he's a bit okay. There was one thing that I was going to write. And you might take this the wrong way, right way, whatever. It's not about being patronising, but I still think he's got a level in him for a few more years that isn't going back to Scotland and going back to Celtic and just being in that 2-horse race or whatever it is, and so on. So my point is, I think
I agree. I think they'll manage him better. I think the thing about him going back to Scotland is that they have. I mean, they've got Greg Taylor there that will be there forever as well. That is like ultra reliable, but a little bit rubbish left back. Who you want to play against, like Hearts and Kilmarnock. Well, Hearts actually is a bit of a savage game now, but you want to play him against Kilmarnock and Motherwell. And then you want to pitch up with KT against Rangers and Hearts and Aberdeen and in the Champions League. And that's what I kind of envisage as being KT's future now, I guess, is being able to make up maybe for some of those 60-game seasons. And I think he played nearly 70 games the year before we signed him for Celtic. So it kind of makes up for that you might be able to go up there and play 25 and 30 of Celtic's most important games instead and hopefully keep himself fit. Which would be a lovely thing for me to see as a Scotland supporter still as well.
And exactly, he's got his national team. He'll still be part of the squad and stuff like that. So anyway, good luck to him, and we wish him all the best. And popular guy. In terms of a low light, nothing. I think from the game, it's similar in a similar vein. Calafiori not being in the squad, which for me was a bit of a low light because I was sort of looking forward to, after we talked about the Newcastle game, the mayhem, the drive, just something different he brought to the game, and I was looking forward to that. And so therefore, then before anyone knows what's what, all the talk is about, oh God, he's injury prone. We've bought another injury prone person. Waste of time, waste of money, yada yada yada. But it turns out that Arteta said that they've pushed him to be fit for the last few games of the season. And it was just, look, he just felt something and they just didn't want to risk it. There was no point risking it. If he had to play, I think he could have done. And he just thinks, right, don't bother, go and rest, recuperate, and then come back next season fully fit, sort of thing. So, I think a shame, but ultimately I think the right decision. So there we go. So that leads on into the turns into the lineup. As I said, it was the Kieran Tierney testimonial, and I think the lineup was suggested as much. With we had Raya, Partey, White, Kivior, Tierney, Zinchenko, Marino, Rice, Winery, Sterling, Martinelli. Now I haven't said in any particular shape or order because when I saw that, I had no idea who was playing where, and even watching the game, still had no idea. But it turns out Tierney was left centre back. And Zinchenko was left back. White was right back, and Kivior was the right centre back. So and then the rest was as you'd expect. So apart from that, anything else on the lineup really worth mentioning? Anything? I guess it was just put out a team to do a job.
Yeah, I mean I kind of wanted there to be one more left foot. Well, actually, no. Mourinho is what? Mikel Merino. Why can't I remember what naturally his foot is?
I think he's a left footer because he was
he's left-footed, isn't he?
Yeah, he's left.
Have we managed to field a team with more left-footed players than none? We've got 3 defence there.
Tick 1, 2.
Zinchenko's sort of ambidextrous, isn't he?
But no, but he's primary left. So Kivior, Tierney, Zinchenko, Marino, Waneri's left footer, is he?
Yeah, Ranieri is.
Sterling. Well, Zinchenko and Sterling cancel each other out because Zinchenko's 2-footed, Sterling's 0-footed, and then
It's
well, no,
Sterling let me down. It's Sterling. I just if it had been Saka, then I think we'd actually got a six left-footed
yeah,
team out there.
we've got
But
a
yeah,
lot of them.
that's about the only remark I've got, other than the fact it was just bloody weird. I saw the lineup before the game, and you went, "Oh yeah, we really don't even think we need this draw, do we?" In fairness, we're very much counting on the fact there's no way that that we can have any problem here.
I think it needed to be like an 8-goal swing between City, Fulham, Arsenal, Southampton, which was just never happening, considering Southampton don't have a forward line. So yeah,
there were real vibes of, all right, we're going to say goodbye to a couple of folks and sort of let this game play out. We think we'll. I mean, it also says a bit about Southampton as well that in fairness, you felt you could put out that team, beat them, and still went on to do so. But it was kind of nice, to be honest. Actually, obviously KT getting a start. Zinni more than likely. I'm not sure whether we're going to see him or not. I don't know. I think he's too young to stay. Is his thing. He's what, 27, 28. He should really move on. And then it was nice to see Waneri get the start, which I think I mentioned last week when you said you wanted Calafiori to start. I wanted Waneri, and so I've won that one out. So thank you, Mikel.
And he started in that.
Wonderful to say goodbye to Raheem Sterling.
Oh, Jesus Christ! A goodbye is such a polite way of saying it. just
really maximise the amount of time you get to see him being shit again to be able to then realise what you're missing.
He was 29 when he joined us, and we'll talk about it a bit later, but. Yeah, I think we all thought there might be something there. It seemed like, okay, it's a bit last minute, but this could be something there. He could offer us something, and I don't think anyone expected it to be this bad. And actually, people aren't really. It's so bad that people are patronising him rather than being angry. It's the worst. It's like they have sympathy, pity, whatever it is, rather than being, for fuck's sake, And it's just, it's nuts how that's worked out. Because I think, honestly, I thought, okay. Could do a job, could do something, and I don't think anybody expected that. So a couple of interesting stats. That was the first time we've started a Premier League game without either Gabriel or Saliba since 2021 when we lost 5-0 at the Etihad back in August. I think it was the Xhaka being sent off game. And again, we had such a makeshift defence that day, and that's 148 games they played together. Or no, not played together. Either one of them have started, and the other one is that David Raya made his 55th appearance of the season, which is the most since David Seaman back in 93-94 when he made 57. So, and look, you can even tell.
That's a lovely stat. That is.
That's a good one. And
look, 94 as well. Dave Seaman had. So that was 2014 league still at the time, right? So Dave Seaman had an extra 8 games to play.
Jeez,
that was during the 46 game season. So that ended in 95 when they dropped 4 out and brought 2 up or whatever it was. But either way, he had more games.
Yeah, he had more to come. But the thing is with David Raya, and he has been a bit off it recently, and I'd suggest that he would also have mental fatigue, because it's one thing being in goal and just your main job is just to save things, and you've got to maintain concentration, but your concentration levels are going to be very different, to the way we play, where he's actually an integral part of our build-up. He's one of our tactically, he's tactically one of our most important players in the team because of what he offers and how he can actually change how we play. He goes long, goes short, depending where he starts our attacks. And so I think he was even getting mentally fatigued. So I think the difference for someone like Rare to play that many games without a break, versus Seaman, and I think this is why we're looking to spend a bit of money on Garcia, because it would then give Rare a bit of a break. I don't know if you share that sentiment as well, but
yeah, 100%. I mean, I totally can understand that. I mean, it's one of those weird positions, though, isn't it? You don't really see sharing time in goal be very successful unless you've just got somebody as the anointed cup keeper, right? And even then, it's only the domestic cups. And the thing is, the domestic cups are such a fraction of the games overall now, and we already did that a little bit. I think did Neto start one, Tommy Stepford start one, and
that was
the child started one as well, didn't he?
God, yes, against Bolton.
The boy started against Bolton. One of them started against Preston, and another one started another. So that was the League Cup games. And then the FA Cup games, we didn't exactly have a huge number of them.
No, we had one.
Well, we had one, exactly.
Yeah, against Man United, and that was Raya, who was who basically wasn't actually shining.
My memory. I've made note of it, funnily enough, for today, but I just don't like to think about that one because it looks so much worse now. It really does after the last month. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I do agree. It is a lot, and I do understand the likes of Yohan Garcia. I still look at that though and kind of think, is it too early for that Stepford lad? To be honest, if you're playing in an FA Cup and League Cup, do you not just go hock and just give it to the child? That always seemed to be the plan that Wenger came up with when he did have a promising young keeper. He certainly did it with Meninga for a bit, and he did it with Fabianski when he was. Fabianski and Szczesny used to sort of, they had those 2 years where the two poles were between the poles, and one would play in the cups and the other one would play in the league games. And I can see it happening, but I don't know if you do that with a £25 million goalkeeper. That seems a bit mental to me.
I guess the argument is, imagine next season Rare's injured for any length of time, and I've just said he's tactically one of our most important players, and then you bring in, like a Stepford or a Neto type or whatever, your whole game changes. So I guess it's a security. It's a tough one because why would you take that position?
Mikel Merino, mate, don't worry, he's quite good with the ball at his feet.
He'll go and goal.
Mikel Merino look, same again. Give him 3-4 games. It'll take him a little while to work out a position, and then he'll be bang on. He'll be fine. He's got the frame for it.
I'm all for that.
I reckon he'd be great under the high ball.
Yeah, I tell you what, you sold me. You sold me. There we go. Save your money. Save your.
I just think that's what we do for squad depth. If we want squad depth in every position, let's just get Mikel Merino playing a little bit of experience in every position across the season, and we'll get there. It'll be fine. I have full faith in him, mate. Ultimate utility man.
Yeah. Exactly. Look, we don't overrun our players. We don't exhaust them. So that's fine. That's fine. So look, in terms of the game, as we jokingly said, it was a very end of season affair. I mean, we wanted to win. It's always nice to win. We were the dominant team, but there was nothing really riding on it. And to be honest, when it was 1-1, I'm not sure either team had the desire to go and win it. But we got the win. Well, no, who's going to make that extra yard? And no one was busting a gut. No one's doing anything. So look, we got the win, and I'd suggest it's because we had the better subs. We bring on Saka, we bring on Odegaard, we bring on Havertz, bring on Trossard. The quality of our subs made the difference, and it did. So there we go. Look, I mean. Final and another stat for you. Final game of the season stat is that's 14 wins on the final game of the season in a row, going past Liverpool's 13 set in 1924. So, yeah, we always seem to enjoy the last game of the season, mostly because there's absolute fuck all riding on it. So, but there we go. So, look, we're not going to go too much into the game. As I said, Kieran Tierney, go on. Can you talk me through the goal or how you saw the goal or what a lovely finish?
Not really. I barely remember it now, to be honest. I know he pitched himself up on the right side of the box, which was somewhere that I didn't necessarily expect him to be. I mean, I only watched our match of the day, and I think I only gave it the one showing. But yeah, I do recall balls come in. He's on the right side of the box and he slotted it home. I don't really care. It was more about the fact that he'd scored, and that was all I was happy about.
Yeah, well, you'd love it because it was a overlap by Ben White. Tick, near post cross, KT running left centre back running to the near post, obviously very Arteta, and he slots it away with his wrong foot, his standing foot with his right foot. So I put down here, what's our left centre back doing there? Who cares? He scored. So it's like
that was my main thought, was just going. I don't know how he's ended up there, but fair play. That's worked out all right, And I hadn't, similar to yourself, I hadn't even worked out really whether he was meant to be playing left back, left wing, whatever. But none of them seemed to be a place where you expected KT to be.
Well, I think he thought, it's the last game of the season. I'm just going to play up front. There we go. You know that. Right, I'm going up front now. So no, and look, you could see he doesn't know how to celebrate. That's one thing. He does not know how to celebrate a goal properly, but he showed his guns. You could see he was dead chuffed, and you could see the rest of the team were chuffed for him. So I think everyone, you couldn't have a nicer goal scorer. So then nothing really much else happened in the first half. Second half, they equalised 1-1. Stewart header. I think again another goal conceded from a set piece, from a corner, and this is part of. And we've been doing that a lot recently, and it's as good as Kivior has been. Just the fact that we miss Big G, Gabriel in the situations, in marshalling the defence, his height, his aggression, I think and without Saliba there, it's just
I honestly
the way
think Kai
it
Havertz
is.
as well. I'm not joking.
Yes,
I
exactly.
think
Yeah,
Kai Havertz has been a big loss defensively in set pieces, actually. Kai Havertz had, I mean, I'd like to see the stats on it, but certainly made himself a nuisance all the time for other teams and just having another 6'4" body, right? But I'd seem to recall him quite often being in and around the ball or getting the ball away or whatever. And I can't help but think that's kind of sprung to mind for me in the last few weeks when I've been thinking about why are we looking a little bit ropey at set play, or why we suddenly conceding from set plays when we weren't. And I think even before, Saliba and Gabriel being absent, I think that's one of the ones we've missed.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then, as I said, wasn't too sure if anyone was really going to bust the gut. I think, look, we had a shot cleared off the line. And then up steps Odegaard in the 89th minute, a bit of interplay down the right. And then outside the Saints box, he cuts across a couple of players. It was a very Odegaard goal circa last year, the year before, and a lovely, low, powerful shot into the bottom corner. And he seems to have found his shooting boots in the last few weeks. And, he's obviously still got it. He's still a fantastic player. It's obvious that he's not been right for whatever reason, but hopefully he can take this as a bit of confidence into that. Yeah, okay, it's there. Just eat a few more McDonald's, get a bit of weight around you, and then get your strength back, and then away you go. So, and then his kid will be a few months older, and and hopefully sleeping, and all the rest of it. So, and then oddly enough, there was 7 minutes of added time, which then had 2 more minutes of added time. No one needed 9 more minutes of Southampton Arsenal. No one did. No one wanted it. And look, if you'd have given this, can we just blow the whistle, ref? I was like, oh god. So there we go. So again, that was the end of that. And so we finished second, and then everything else all came out in the wash. And what did you make of the final sort of how it ended up? So obviously Liverpool won, we came second, City came third, and then the big questions were about Chelsea, Newcastle, Villa, and Forest, and the two teams to lose out were Forest, who seemed to just could not get any momentum in the last few games. Villa went full Emery, and you just don't go full Emery ever, and this time, I'm not a big fan of using the word bottle it, but Emery is a bottle job. And then Newcastle lucked out, and I'm so pissed off that Chelsea came fourth when they really didn't deserve to. But any thoughts on how it all panned out on the last day?
A little bit of anticlimax, to be honest. I went down to I went and met up with a couple of mates and watch it in the Big Penny on the big massive screen they've got there, and bit weird anyway that they decided to pick Crystal Palace versus Liverpool to be the game that they were going to be showing. We'd all sort of expected and hoped it would be Forest Chelsea. Saying that, actually ended up being a real entertaining game, in fairness, and it was really quite fun seeing Mateta try and find every possible way he could to be ruled offside. But it was honestly, that was quite entertaining, and kind of following along, I was just ultimately a bit disappointed. It felt like there was a real lack of goals around the league, especially in those games where it seemed to really count for the first halves, and then sort of everything seemed a little bit of a procession, just like most of the season had been. I was really hoping to see Forest turn over Chelsea. I was really hoping to see Villa try and sneak in, and I'd have rather Newcastle sneak in than either City or Chelsea, and nothing really ended up being what I wanted. It was the most boring, most crap version of the top four that we could have got from the outset of that day.
Yeah.
For me at least, anyway. So yeah. What about yourself?
I mean, yeah, no, it's the Aston Villa Chelsea thing. I mean, what Emi Martinez was doing, it's Rasmus Højlund. Come on, you just stay in your goal. He's not going to
You might as well
score for
stand
Christ's
aside, see if he can even hit the target, right?
He's not going to score for Christ's sake. You know what are you doing?
I
And then,
can't believe there's a £72 million striker out there that we wouldn't sign. I wouldn't
oh
take him for
god,
free. Like, he's a £72 million striker that make us worse.
and look, they were hard done by with the decision that he should have let it play on, and then if it was he could have reviewed it on VAR. So that they were hard done by that. But up until then, they were apparently by far the worst team. They were second. Man United were all over them. So and that has got to be a banker. You go to Man United after they've lost in the Europa League. They've on the shocking run of form. And so not only did they let Man United win, I mean, this is so Emery to just bottle this, and then it means Man United got over 40 points for the season, which again, so there's so many things that Emery let us down on. And then Newcastle just lucked out on goal difference, and just Chelsea just. And did you see that? I don't know. Have you seen the videos of Chelsea celebrating? They spend £1.5 billion and they celebrate coming fourth, and then we get grief for coming second, given all the shit that we've had to deal with.
I mean, I'm all right with it because I kind of feel like you're getting all celebration police otherwise, aren't we? But I do know what you mean. I know what you mean in relative terms and whatever. And you'd love for everyone to have the caveat, but you'd love for the celebration police to turn up and go, "Oi, see now you're not allowed to do that because under the Arsenal Code of Conventions and whatever." But it's no. I mean, they should be delighted. It's a young. I mean, they are, and I do think, despite the amount of money that's been spent, it is worth remembering they are the youngest squad in the league by a long. I think their average age this season has actually been the youngest recorded in the Premier League.
Yeah, 24 something. Yeah, so I heard that today.
It's well worth remembering that, and they're in a and also they haven't really spent all that money in just the last couple of seasons, right? That team is now starting to bed together, and they're going to be good, I think, to be honest. So, if anything, I'm a little bit cautious. I know they didn't finish the season brilliantly. I know Cole Palmer went off the boil a bit, but they're going to be quite decent, and they have every right, I think, to celebrate a bit of a benchmark for them in terms of being able to reach where they should be.
Yeah, look, I will come down from that, and I will accept the celebration police thing. And the players, they're not there judging who spent what and all the rest of it. So, I have a deep hatred for them, and just like anything they do is never right in my eyes. So, whatever. So, so it's unfortunate, but it pans out like that, and away we go. We will touch on 17th and 22 losses later. Okay, right. So that's that for the season. So now we'll move on to sort of end of season review and dish out some awards for some sort of various topics that I just randomly, but also not very imaginatively thought of. So look, what are your general thoughts on the season, on how it panned out, how it ended, how you generally feel about it?
So, I think when I collect them together, I kind of look at it and go, obviously there's a little bit of disappointment. I think various different disappointing times in the season for various reasons. I'll point to, I think in particular, the Newcastle semi-final as being one where it felt like we just didn't really turn up over a couple of games. We had the chance of a trophy. That was, a major disappointment for me. The way that it felt like the league became a procession for Liverpool in a season when, finally City weren't in the running and, we weren't the front runner. That was weird. That was not what we expected. We expected that if City would fall off, and we didn't anticipate that, then we were going to be the folks right behind them, right? And we were going to be pushing them. So for Liverpool to get that, take that position up, and then for us really to, not be in a position to challenge them from kind of end of January was disappointing. However, some of its parts, second place again, quite comfortably second place in the end. We stuttered over the line only because we had bigger fish to fry, and we really couldn't be asked in the league. But we're very comfortably second. So, you can look at that and say, I don't think even though we may have regressed points wise, you may interpret it that way. I don't think we have really regressed. I think we've had a super challenging season. We've come through quite a lot. And to be honest, the league hasn't been a priority for quite some time now, for probably about 3 months, because in the same way that Liverpool have led a procession in first place and stuttered a few times themselves en route, we've led a procession in second place. We were never going to catch them. They always had a gear they could go up because they had that huge cushion. And ultimately, nobody was really going to catch us because we'd have just stuck on the pedal whenever we needed to as well, which we ended up doing in the second half against Newcastle when we really needed to. So overall, pretty positive about what it means for the club. In terms of moments, I mean, that quarter final will live with me forever.
Yeah.
Booking a place in the League Cup semi-final in the way that we did. But the first and second legs against Real Madrid were, two of the greatest games that we've had as a club in Europe. And certainly, I think the first one has given us in fact, I think this season's given us the two greatest memories I have in that stadium, which is the City win and the Real win. There was the monkey off the back, and then there was the going out and just being just demolishing Real Madrid. Some of the greatest moments that I've ever had in that stadium. So overall, I come out of it saying it's a decent season. It's not a great season. It's not a clear progress on last season, but also I don't feel like it's real regression either. Just because we finished with less points in the league doesn't mean that it was regression at all. I think we, if anything, really have just kind of had a bit of a weird kind of consolidation year to a certain extent, and a bit of a prove it year when dealing with quite as much adversity that we'd not dealt with before. And I think we'll come out of it in a better place next season. But are you going to remember this season in years to come?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll remember a lot of moments of it, and that's good, But I do think we could have been more competitive in the cups, and that's the one thing that I really feel was missing, is that I just think, I think we should have pushed a little bit more. And I think in particular the game that I point to is the Newcastle one. It's the first day against Newcastle in the League Cup. I point at that one and go, I think this could have been a really much more memorable season if we'd have won that game.
That was the game where we had like 9 XG and we just could not put the ball in the back of the net. I think we had so many chances and stuff. Like I'm not that fussed about the cups. And look, we differ to some people on that. And the cups can take it or leave it, or even especially the League Cup. I would just really, what cost us this season was beating Palace at home. I think that had a big impact on our season. Those 2 extra games in January where we were down players and fatigued, and I think that would cost us a couple more players for a bit longer. But that's a sort of a different story. And in terms of, I like your bit about the moments, because if everything is about arriving or everything's about the end, how many times does that happen? And it's great. Look, we've seen the women celebrate, and we know that's what we want to achieve, and no one's saying we don't want to achieve that. And when that happens, it's amazing. But until it happens, you've got to be able to enjoy the moments and relish those moments, because if there's people that say, oh, but those moments mean less because we didn't get the ultimate goal. I don't know. I must admit, when I was celebrating Marino's 3rd goal, I wasn't thinking about whether we win the Champions League or not. I was just going absolutely ballistic, hugging anyone in sight, because we'd just gone 3-0 up against Man City, against Real Madrid, and you can't take that away. That's not that instant feeling there that I can still remember now isn't going anywhere, whether we won the Champions League or not. So I'm really big on the moments, because that's what football's all about, and because if it's all just about the trophy at the end of it, then more often than not you're going to be disappointed. So, but that's my view. Some others differ on that, and at some point you do have to balance out the journey to the actual end game. But I mean, for me this season, it was just about momentum. We just never got momentum, never felt we got the season going. We'd win a game and then we'd get a red for whatever ridiculous reason, or we'd lose a player, or lose a player to injury, or we'd have both. And it just seemed to continue in that pattern throughout. We just couldn't build any solid foundations. And and everything we were doing was pretty shaky, and then everything that could go wrong sort of pretty much did to a point. And this isn't about feeling sorry for yourself or whatever. It's just that, yeah, it just felt that yeah, anything that could go wrong and that went against us did. And look, that's life. And so therefore, and this leads to, we played on the margins way too much, and those margins just didn't fall our way most of the time, and we would give up leads, and which would lead to draws or losses, and we weren't set to mitigate those margins. We were trying to win games 1-0, but because we didn't have the strikers we needed, or we didn't have the defense that we needed, for whatever reason, and so that sort of in a way sums up the season. And like there's a stat that is very clear around, no one in our team got into double figures in the Premier League in scoring. You got Havertz on 9, Martinelli on 8, Trossard on 8, Marino on 7, Saka on 6, Rice on 4. So and for me, it's not about the, I think, the quality of our strikers or anything. It's the amount of chances that we create, and we just weren't creating enough chances. We actually outperform our XG on a regular basis, and we outperformed our XG this season. We just don't create enough XG. We're not creating enough high quality chances to mitigate those margins to go. We were always sort of 1-0, relying on, can we hold out? Whereas in previous seasons, we go 2-0, 3-0, game's over in 70 minutes, make the subs, end of. And just all this leads into just the season we've had, and the injuries, and just the way we played. But
most recent teams do outperform their XG to a certain extent, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is a thing. Like,
yeah.
XG has a certain thing where it's most representative in the middle of the table, and it's not that representative at the top or bottom of the table if you actually put it together for points and whatever.
But in turn,
and well, and I was just going to say, the other thing I think that is interesting. So I looked at the same stat about who scored what in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And it led to me going down a bit of a rabbit hole and working out that from the striker position, we actually scored 20 goals this season from 9.
Mm-hmm.
Which is sort of interesting, because we won a 20 goal a season 9. We actually got 20 goals from 9. We got, if you look at the games that Havertz, Marino and Trossard played 9, and Jesus, the combined efforts add up to 20 goals, which is just, I thought, sort of an interesting thing.
But that shows we've got it in us.
Havertz was on course for at least a 16-goal season, probably. In fairness, I think he'd have scored the goals Marino scored. He scored 9 as it was up until then, right? And that was exclusively from playing 9, I think, other than one game. And it's just sort of an interesting one to me, that I think you're right. I think there was more to do with kind of fluency around the team as a whole. And not having a 9 was a massive issue in the end in lots of different respects, and there's all sorts of reasons for it. But I don't think it's purely goals. I don't think it is purely just having a finisher.
No,
we've had the finishes there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not about the finisher. That's what I'm saying. That's why the XG thing is important, because we always outperform it. So it's just that we don't create enough of it, or we're not creating enough of those big enough chances and stuff like that. So look at the stats from 22-23. We scored 88 goals. So that's 2.32 per game. 23-24, 91 goals, 2.39. This season, 69 goals. That's 1.82. But our actual XG differential roughly stays the same. And our goals against, actually, we performed all right. This year was better than 22-23. But yeah, so I think it's just more about, we were too on the margins this year, just too much reliant on the 1-0s and whatever. And the reasons we were there is because of the injuries, because of the red cards, because we didn't buy certain players that potentially we could have done and take advantage of transfer windows. So there's so many things in there that are, both can be true. We messed up, but also a lot of stuff didn't go away. So at the end of the day, my overall feeling is a mixture of frustration. As you said, it's an opportunity missed. And there was a chance there when City weren't at their best. Liverpool, they won it on 84 points or whatever. No, I can't remember what points tally it was. I can just look up here. But it wasn't like a stellar year. 84 points, so it's not like a stellar year. And I think there's that thing going around about timing and stuff like that. And it is. It's a lot.
They didn't need to, though, did they?
Exactly. They went stretched.
Teams push teams. The reason that City had the greatest points tally of all time was because they were pushed to that. they needed those points, and it's
So
the previous records. It's always the same. That's
so
the
the
way.
frustration's there that you, like you said, we didn't push them. But
Yeah.
I think on the flip side, it's incredible, and I still do not think we get enough credit either from our own fans or from pundits, from other fans. Not that we really care. That given everything, we still came second, as you said, comfortably second. And that's just nuts. And as Arteta said, any other team in that place, and we can talk about a certain team losing 22 games, finishing 17th, or in Man United or whatever. It's like it's like, oh, second again. Fucking hell, second again. Wow. So I will take that as a positive because I think I heard a pod yesterday or I heard something yesterday. Is this like Arteta's best coaching effort? I said, irrespective of why we're here, to coach this team to a Champions League semi-final and second in the league with everything, I think it's
But I
amazing,
think
and
it's
that
a sign of his
stands
success.
in good stead.
The only teams criticised for finishing second are those that are in the hunt for first. The only teams that have been criticised for finishing second in the last 10 years have been City or Liverpool. And then before that, Chelsea or whatever it might be. Same as when it was between Arsenal and United in the early Wenger era. The only reason that, you're talked about in an echelon that is separate to the rest of the league. And that is what it is. I think it's just a bit of a shame that our own fans get quite so sucked into some of those themselves, but each to their own on that. But for me, at least, anyway, I think that 3 seconds in a row is a very impressive feat. When you give that 4 or 5 years ago now, I looked at an Arsenal team and went, "My fucking god, this lot are awful." And I still think we were bloody lucky to finish as high as we did for a couple of seasons then, and it's now a much, much better league. I'll tell you now, if that Emery team that was, that stuttered its way to 5th or 6th, it was, on the individual merits of, on basically Ramsey and Aubameyang having a bunch of banging games. If that team was in this Premier League, they're playing around the United and Tottenham area right now. They were not in any way, shape, or form built for this league as it stands these days.
I'm going back to the Kieran Tierney stuff, and it's not his fault. It's just his timing. 2019, 20, 8th, 2021, 8th, 21, 22, 5th, and then 22, 23, second, second, and then second. So, the progression is there. Yeah, I understand the frustration, but I can understand why, and I can still really, really enjoy and take credit and, appreciate where we are. And it's not over. I think this is just the beginning rather than the end. And on that point about how fans react to things and stuff, this is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek question, and I was hoping Moz was on the show today because he was sort of a bit contradictory to this, but I've softened my stance, and this is why. But the question is, did Spurs have a better season than Arsenal? And I'll let you go first before I go on my monologue.
Absolutely fucking not. Okay. But I mean, did they have a better season? Now, the more interesting question, I think, is did they have a better season for them? And I think they did. I think it's better for them to have this season than to have our season. I think this is the shot in the arm that Tottenham needs, which is why I don't like it. But I do think it's, for them as a fan base, they will remember this. They'll cherish it. They enjoyed it, and they would take this probably over, finishing second, third, whatever. And I absolutely get that. I understand from their perspective why they're proud of it and why they think that they've had a better season in some respects. What do we need? Well, this would be a sackable. M8 would get sacked for this, whereas Mate is not getting sacked for it.
Hopefully he's not. Please stay.
But honestly, I think this is the thing. For us, that would be clear sign of regression in every sense of the word. It's not where we are. It's not where our squad's at. It's not the ambitions of this club or this squad. For them, their league performances, they can write them off. They've got a certain degree of where we knew we were safe about them all, and they take that, the trophy that they've got, and they say that was worth everything, worth all the pain. We would only be in pain over this, wouldn't we? and there's just no way that we'd have accepted it as a fan base. And it just would have been at least there was a game at the end of the season to salvage an otherwise awful season. But that would mean something very different, I think, to us and our fan base and our team and our players and our manager to what it means for Tottenham at the moment. So, no, I don't think they've had a better season empirically at all. It's been a shite season for them, and they've just managed to pick up a half meaningful trophy at the end of it, which, to be honest, that final, as well as being the worst game of football I think I've seen in years.
So
I mean,
bad.
that was
so bad.
Fucking hell, that was terrible, wasn't it? I mean, that was really bad. Everything about it, even the fact that the winning goal comes from an attempt on goal that went backwards away from goal. Everything about it was awful, but those two teams that made it, even though they finished 16th and 17th or 15th and 17th or whatever in the league, those two clubs' budgets are probably, individually are about the same as most of the competition combined. I mean, it is not it's not a huge badge of honour, I don't think, overall. Is it something for them to enjoy? Absolutely, but that's it.
Yeah. My contention is, and they will say it because they're their fans, and we would say the same, and whatever. So it's just banter, whatever. It's just when our own fans think it. Now, I've been thinking about this question a lot, and my like you, my immediate emotional response has always been very strong. No fucking way. Just a very vociferous no way. Straight in there, straight in. And actually, we had to call it out in the group because there was a bit of a pylon and said, okay, right, everyone's allowed an opinion. Whether they're right or wrong, they're allowed an opinion. Okay, this is a safe space, so we dialed it back a bit and all the rest of it. And so look, upon a bit of reflection, and it's a bit in line with what you were saying, and following some engagement online on the socials, I have sort of reconsidered my perspective a bit, and partly because I would say, well, if Tottenham had a better season, so have Leeds because they won a trophy, and I started it with so have Sunderland because they won a trophy by coming third in the the playoffs and stuff like that. So have they had a better season enough because they lifted a trophy and I applied that to Spurs. Now I had some engagement, and it basically boils down to, and it does a bit like what you were saying, but we are operating at a higher level. Our expectations are higher. Our objectives are higher. We are targeting the big trophies. So objectively, finishing second in the Premier League and reaching the semi-final of the Champions League, which is only the third time we've done that, is a better season. It's success of sorts. It's not got a trophy. It's not defined by a trophy, but it's still success of sorts. But because of where the likes of Spurs are operating, then there is the argument that they have had a better season because they are operating at lower levels. And look, would I swap? Not in a million years. Does it mean they're better than us? No way. Look, they finished 17th, losing 22 times. We lose one game, we lose our shit. They lost 20. Could you imagine that? And they've won a second-tier UEFA trophy that we fought desperately not to be in. We are literally too good to be in. And you get rewarded by not being in it the following year. So so what does that say? So,
you said earlier as well about the journey over the destination, right?
Yeah.
Well, the journey that they've had has been shit. The journey that they've had has been like,
is it worth it?
Every roundabout, speed bump, car crash you could imagine en route to this. What they enjoyed as a final destination. Well, in fact, it wasn't a final destination. It was 4-1 against Brighton on the last day, wasn't it?
That was great.
Quite a nice way. I had a few folks I know that were at that game and were giving it the big one about how much they were going to enjoy seeing the team after they got back from the Europa and how brilliant it was to be back in the stadium. And he's just like, that lasted long, didn't it? All right.
Yeah, look. So for them,
the journey's not been enjoyable.
No, so for them, it is success, and they've had a good season, and good luck to them. But on a relative basis, no chance, and it's a false equivalence trying to compare the two, and that's where it is. So I've dialed it down to accept that for them they've had a better season, but you just cannot compare. And if you want to swap, be my guest. But that's nuts. So anyway, those just the two big questions, and now we get on to some awards. And I think you've sort of touched on. And I should have mentioned this beforehand. I was going to ask for what's your highlight and low light of the season, sort of in in terms of our format. But rather than a particular game, was there any particular moment? So it should have been, what was your highlight moment of the season? What was your low light moment of the season? So if you can't think of one at the top of your head, I'll put my two, and then you can.
No. I mean, I can say I think my low light was finding out about Havertz's injury.
Okay.
I'll say that now because that just had this hammer blow feel about it. It felt like the compounding of things, and it happened. I'm right in saying it wasn't long after one of my moments of the season, which was the City 5-1, and it just felt like we just had this big surge of we're in the hunt still, and then when he went down, it just felt like what it became, which was it was the anchor around the neck of the season. Then,
because we're in Dubai, we're hoping for the Dubai effect from last season and all the rest of it, and then it's just a training ground injury. I think it was just jumping at a corner. I don't think it was actually doing any sprints or anything like that. So there's a lot of it. Oh, why was he training so hard? He was just in corner practice,
Just real low light for me. That I just remember just going, what the heck, and just sort of turning off for a bit and just going, oh well, we'll see now. But it just felt so horrible at the time, knowing, well, no Jesus, no Havertz. What the hell are we going to do? We first started hearing the rumours about Merino up front within a day or two, and that at the time was terrifying. So it was. I just thought it was laughable, but highlight.
The highlight.
I think. I mean, it's. Do you know? Because I'm one of the other ones I'm going to come to later on. I'm going to say Merino's goal against Real Madrid. Because something incredibly satisfying, because they kind of link together, really, if you're going to make me do moments. Merino's shift that he's done in place of Havertz was fantastic, and to then go and score with a deft, cute striker's goal against Real, as he did against a bunch of other teams as well. Just in, for me, against that club in their competition, as they like to think of it as being, just it's one of those sums it all up moments. So and that leaves another moment available to yourself if you want from that game. Or
well, no. So mine are sort of linked. So I'm going to go with my highlight, and it's sort of, they're both highlight low light linked, but different games. But my highlight was the MLS celebration after his third goal.
Yes.
Against City. The Buddha pose, the stay humble, and then the chant by the crowd, "Stay humble, you cunt." Fantastic. So just everything around that, the MLS celebration, to do that in the moment, because there's no way he would have been thinking about scoring. Maybe it's in his head, right? There's no way he was thinking about scoring against Man City, because he wouldn't do that in any other game other than against Man City. So just to be able to do that, and that was superb, and then we loved it, and we just love him even more for it, and great, and Haaland took it on the chin, and respect to the guy, and all the rest of it. But then my low light is related to MLS, and it was all the gutter press reaction to MLS from that celebration and the red card at Wolves, and just the response: get back in your box, cocky, get this, that, and the other, and just a complete, snide. Let's call it what it is. Elements of racism in there, just patronising, just this, that, and the other. And they forget, a lot of these from ex-footballers do not remember what it was like being 18. Well, they were privileged, okay, back in the time, so they most really didn't have to put up with the grief. But fucking hell, being an 18-year-old footballer playing at the top level, and how hard it is, and what you've done to get there, and he shows a bit of character, because everyone complains that there's no characters in the game, and all of a sudden someone shows character. It just upset me a lot, and I just didn't like it. And I think hopefully he's ridden it out. I think towards the end of the season, I think the fact that he's played for England, he's scored for England, I think people are really seeing his quality and actually how good a play is.
It was barely a bump in the road for him, to be honest.
For him. Let's hope so. Let's hope so, because they can very quickly come back. Because the next thing, you just know, it's just there, underlying, waiting to happen. So but he's got good people around him, and So my highlight was his celebration, the way he conducted himself. My low light is just fucking idiots, which is always a low light in life. Okay, right. Next up, what was your goal of the season?
So this is why I couldn't put it under individual moment. I mean,
Okay,
it's
yeah.
Deck Rice, isn't it? I mean, yeah. I mean,
Which one?
one game he's got two of them to pick from, and then there's other ones to pick from as well on top of that. But no, I'm going second one against Real because I mean, I don't think I've ever been so excited for a goal in the flesh against any team ever. I just don't. I think the number of people that I made contact with in that period of time was akin to what would happen over a 60-minute punk gig that I'd go to. It was just limbs everywhere because the way he struck it. I mean, that's the one thing as well. Just the replay value of that goal. So I experienced it in a moment. I'm in a fantastic seat for it. We do the usual. I think everybody had the same conversation next to him. Oh, wouldn't it be hilarious if he did it again, or he's going to do it again, or whatever stuff that you didn't actually believe in any way, shape, or form. He does it again. It's a cleaner strike. It's absolutely gorgeous. It is unstoppable, and the replay value on Instagram. I mean, I would love to know how many total hours that goal got played in its various different clipped up forms by 1,000,001 different accounts because my dear God, I spent some serious time on that, some very serious time. So yeah, I think I spent more time on that than I have entire motion pictures. To be frank,
Look, I agree that was my number one choice. And look, you're right. You find the right commentary, and you find one of those ones. You find those clips where they play the goal in all the different languages of commentary, but then actually one of the best commentary is just Andy Townsend's reaction to it. It's like he's just like, oh my, I don't think he says oh my God, it makes a noise, and it just summed up the goal. So it can't be anything else than that. But it's funny enough, you say in terms of limbs, I think I was more in shock than anything. I think the Marino goal was, oh my God, we're 3-0 up. It's more like that was the one where I went absolutely mental in terms of hugging everything. The Rice goal was just like, what happened? It was sort of like amazing, sort of like, I know, I agree. I think that's going to be everyone's
goosebumps thinking about it now. Honestly, I think it's. I mean, those, and again, this isn't. And to hark back, this is why this season will be memorable for many.
Yeah,
the moments that we had along the way, and this. I mean, the Marino one, as you say, the City game in general, but certainly MLS's goal. But that moment in particular, I'm never not going to have goosebumps about that. That was, as good as it gets.
You can't be. Yeah, look, honourable mentions goes to Rice's first goal, his first free kick, which was fucking amazing. Ridiculously. That gets just overshadowed by his second goal. Then I think
the fact that it said this ain't luck. Do you know what I mean? Like, we know Declan Rice can strike a ball beautifully. We know he's been our best set piece taker for a while now. But there was something about it that actually it almost improved the first goal. It made the first goal more. How do I put it? Deliberate. I mean, everything's deliberate, right? He's taking a strike at goal, but it made it seem more deliberate and more skilled almost. It wasn't Granit Xhaka doing it once every 2 seasons, just hitting it as hard as he bloody can, and the rest of the time it going everywhere else. The fact that Deck doesn't take many direct free kicks made it better. Everything about it was just super.
They weren't hitting the wall, were they? These
ones. It's not Roberto Carlos and Cristiano Ronaldo taking 300 million free kicks a season, and then you get the 3 of them that go in, and it wasn't even that for Roberto Carlos, about 3 in his career. But you clip up just the ones that went in. It felt like Juninho, Perman, Cabinho, and we haven't had one of those in a long time. So it was really lovely.
It was good. And then again, and I think a couple of honourable mentions I said to Rice's first one, the Saka goal against Real Madrid, I think more for what it meant as opposed to the actual. I mean, it's still a beautiful goal, and the fact that he missed a pen. Mentioned MLS against City at home, and then Calafiori against City away, the equaliser. Ricky arrives, so I think I wanted to sort of call out those goals as well. So
and of course, KT against Southampton.
There we go, top of the lot. So look, I think we've had some great moments to celebrate and some great finishes. So something to enjoy. So these are fairly easy pickings. So what was your? Well, actually, you've mentioned one or two, so I don't know which one you're going to go for. Which was your match of the season?
It's so hard. honestly, it's so hard to pick between three games, right? The City game for me, I thought was just not going to be topped in a season because that was such a great game. I mean, 5-1 against City. And even though they've been struggling this season, they were starting to pick up a bit of form. It's when they first started to pick up a bit. They got their January signings. I think it was the first game after the window shut, wasn't it? Or the last game before it, one of the two. And we were sort of, we were reeling a bit. We had a few injuries. We were stuttering a bit, but it really felt like that was, I think, our first game of the season where we said this is absolute must win. If we want to still be in with a shout, we need to win this. And I think as well, Liverpool drew that day or that weekend or maybe before the game. I don't remember the exact order of things, but certainly that match weekend, and so that was a really big one for me. But how on earth do you get winning the Burnabout yet? On a personal level, the Real game at home was huge. And then the Burnabout, I mean, I'm watching it in a pub in God knows where I was. I was somewhere up north. No, I was in Devon. That was it. I was in Devon, wasn't I? I'm watching it in a pub in Devon and feeling very remote and like it's like I live in North London. I'd normally be either in the stadium or in a North London pub, and yet I had the most intense night just watching this game with no commentary, absolutely staring at the screen. Feeling every single kick of the ball with like no other Arsenal fans anywhere near me. And that sticks with me as well. So I find it really tough. I think if I think of it from significance for the club, I think probably for me, I actually think it might be the City game.
Okay.
I actually think there's something about putting the knife in them. There's something about the ruthlessness of it. There's something about the not a one-off occasion, which to a certain extent Champions League knockout rounds are, and something about the fact that we asserted ourselves over them, and I didn't feel the slightest bit of worry that they were going to catch us for the rest of the season. And it's unfortunate it happens this season and not last season or the season before, right? But there was something about the way we asserted ourselves, I think, and that for whatever reason is the one that sticks with me as probably being the most significant for us, almost sort of moving on from this season.
Yeah. And he had some big moments. They said the MLS goal, Winery's fifth goal. He did a Winery goal, his trademark goal. So there was a lot about it. It'd been coming. They'd been due a beating by us, and it was a proper beating. And had a lot of also pent up frustration. So again, one of the other games of the season was Man City 2 when we drew 2-2 away. We were so close to winning that, and then just it was the beginning of the rise of MLS.
And the red card, right?
Yeah, the red card ruined.
The red card game, and
ruined by the ref. So
Matt,
that was a massive game. I'm torn between the home. I'm going to put City third, because I'm torn between the home game and the away game for Real Madrid. I'd say just because of the emotional impact of the home game, you only do that once, and it was just amazing. But I think the world was watching when we beat Real Madrid away at the Bernabeu, and all of a sudden people start to go, oh, hello, hang on, and we're getting noticed, and we are now we're playing with the big boys. We're not playing in some Euro vase. We're playing with the big boys here. We're beating Real Madrid in the Bernabeu after all the remontada talk, after all that nonsense. We miss a penalty and we still beat them 2-1. And I'm so pleased we got that winner, because just to say we won at the Bernabeu is massively important. And we could have not crumbled. I don't think we're going to get knocked out, but could have made it tight after going 1-0 up and then equalising straight away. But I think just it was such a mature performance. And was it Rice said of walking out, no fear or something like that. So I think that's just. Yeah, I think that has got to be like the match of the season. The reason I can't connect to it as much because I'm not there. I should have been, but I wasn't. So it's harder to connect. And I think a couple of other performances I think worth talking about or mentioning. Yeah, beating PSV 7-1 away. Now I was there for that one, and that's just another statement one. Beating Sporting Lisbon 5-1 away, where we just played fantastic football and just untouchable that night. But I think one that people have forgotten because it's early on in the season, but was massively significant, was when we beat Tottenham 1-0 away with the Gabriel header. We had no Rice. We were playing Spurs away, Atalanta away, first game in the Champions League, City away, all in the same week. And we went there and we won 1-0 against bitter rivals early on in the season. And I think it's a shame that, again, that was what I was talking about, momentum. That should have been a momentum game. That should have been right. 1-0, let's go, beat them away. Where we've done it, we've got a hard week. And so on. So I definitely want to call out that as well. So, okay, on to our.
That's a. Do you know, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, it was, and exactly as you say, it was right in the. We had such a tough opening couple of months, right?
Yeah, forget about that, don't we? Who we had to play: City, Tottenham, Villa away 2-0.
No, not at all.
Yeah, nuts. Right. Next up, this is for you, by the way. So, red card of the season. Okay, so we're going to do a countdown of the 6 red cards. Starting off at number 6 is Mikel Merino versus Liverpool away. Yep, second yellow, no complaints. Then in at number 5, you got LMLS versus West Ham United. Craig Pawson, fair enough. Raya was in a different postcode. Then we have MLS versus Wolves away. Michael Oliver, VAR packing up his mate. Good process. And then you have William Saliba against Bournemouth. Robert Jones, really? Oh, sorry, Howard Webb is in the stands. But then it's the next day. It's not a red. Good process. In at number 2 is Leandro Trossard against City. Michael Oliver. That's one for your paymasters. And number 1 is Declan Rice against Brighton Hove Albion. Chris Kavanagh. He had no choice. There you go. You asked for it. You got Life of Riley.
Lightning speeds, yeah, I did. I love it.
So there we go. Hopefully, we won't get done for copyright. So those are I think those are our 6 red cards, and I think pretty much, I don't know, that the number one. Well, for me, the worst red card of the season was the Declan Rice. It just kickstarted all the shit that was going to go wrong with our season. Chris Kavanagh, you had a fucking choice.
I'm taking it on spirit and just going with my favourite one, and it was Declan Rice, for the perspective that no other bastard's going to get red carded for that now, are they? That's it. That just stands out. You know, that red card is going to stand out as a moment in a season, like that you just got picked on because of a new directive in the most stupid, but not even like, it wasn't an obvious version of that thing to discipline, right? It was the entire way that all went down was just fucking stupid. So yeah, it's that will go down as my Schadenfreude favourite. That's the one.
Yeah. Well, you say that's never going to happen again. It happened a week later, or 2 weeks later with Leandro Trossard.
No, Trossard was a stupid twat. Like,
no,
he was obvious, and we knew about it. We'd seen it. He was an idiot. He was a bloody idiot. I was Leo for that, not the referee.
All right. Well, I'm going to disagree with that, and I'm one for disagreeing, because 1, it was literally like a nanosecond after he blew. 2, he was actually passing the ball out to Martinelli, who was on the right wing, free in space, and he wasn't wasting. And also that whole thing was like, what's his name was on the floor, so he wasn't wasting any time. So I don't know. I'm going to give Trossard the benefit of the doubt there, but I can see why people were annoyed at him. But again, it was daft. So.
Well, I mean, it also feels fitting that we've got these reds since, you know, I mean, actually, I say it's unprecedented, you know, Robin Van Persie, basically, right? But that's famous instance of them all, the greatest, the very greatest of all of the unfair moments of ball being kicked away half a millisecond later in the stadium where you can't hear nothing. But it's just going to be Decky Rice for me, because it also just set the tone, didn't it? Set the tone.
It was. The thing is, I think with the Barcelona one, that's corruption. This is incompetence, and that's that. So that's the difference. And also, I think he did hear it. He just had to say that because but he wasn't kicking the ball away to waste time. For God's sake, I mean, we needed to score. What was the benefit? But anyway, a clear winner, Declan Rice against Brighton Hove Albion, Chris Kavanagh. Yeah, you had no choice. Right. Okay. So on to more serious matters. And I think this is actually quite well, if you don't mind saying so myself, quite a key question to the season. And which injury for you had the biggest impact on our season? And why?
Havertz. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, Havertz is the one, because then it's the thing that I've noted down here when I kind of looked at all these beforehand is a word that you've used in this several times, and it's momentum. Again, it happens just after the City 5-1. He scored in that. I think he scored the last goal, didn't he?
Yeah. No, second last goal, the fourth. Yeah,
last,
lovely move.
Yeah,
He
we
made
got
a
the last
really
one, didn't he? With that beautiful out of the,
yeah.
Let's heap the pain on him moment. That one, wasn't it? That was.
It was so good. He didn't even celebrate. Shrugged his shoulders. That's what I do.
Also, he has no emotions. So, but Kai, I think Kai getting injured was just. It was just the relentlessness of it. It was just, again, you've had a high, you got the Dubai. We discussed it earlier, in the low moments, and that for me was the injury. Yes, Saka's was a problem. Interestingly, my second choice for this actually would be Odegaard's, and that's more to do with what I might come to later. And if you're pointing, I'll let you take over. There we go.
No, that's right. No, in terms of Havertz, again, a bit like Raya, his off and not Raya's off the ball work, but he was our top scorer. His off the ball work is so important to the team, and just his general tactical importance to how we play and what he offers, posting up, off the ball work. Well, yes, people get frustrated. He's not an archetypal number 9 who's going to bang in. Well, again, he was on for 16 to 20 goals this season. If you look at the last 2 seasons, or if you were to spread the end of last season to the beginning of this season, he's on 20 goal pace. So massively important. But you could see it coming. Was it Wolves? He was just so knackered. Playing against 10 men, he was just on his last legs. And again, this comes down to our recruitment and where was the backup for him and whatever. But we can argue that another day. For me, I'm going to say Odegaard again. Like you said, momentum. It just, the beginning of the season summed up everything. So we had the Rice red card, draws, and then Odegaard. I think it just set the ball rolling, and it was like he shouldn't have actually been there. That Brighton game, he came off early because I think he was feeling a knock, I can't remember if he felt a knock and had to stay on because we were down to 10 men, or he should have come off. He was feeling a knock, and he should not have gone away against Norway, against, I don't know, Kazakhstan or one of these sort of countries. Again, it was a Europa. No, what was it? The Nations League, and he didn't have to go. But because he's captain of Norway, I think he felt obliged. I think he'd like, again, I don't begrudge players playing for the country, whatever, but Arsenal could have put their foot down here and said, yeah, come on, let's keep you, we need you here. And I think we're always on the back foot from there. The other thing is, he's the only player in our team that we don't have an option for replacement. Now, we have other replacements for Saka, for Havertz, for Gabriel. They might not be great, but we got replacements. Odegaard, when Eri's not an Odegaard, very different players, offer very differently, and also he was 17 at the time, so come on, be real. So I think he just set the tone again, like everything else that happened in the first few months, for the rest of the season, and I just don't think we ever recovered. You're right, Saka, he was our most creative player, our talisman. We got around that a bit.
But Saka being missing also opened up an opportunity, and I think there were a lot of the injuries actually, in a weird way, you'd rather not have them. They were negative for the season overall. But you know what? Havertz's injury actually has ended up, in terms of what it gives us next season, is a Merino that hopefully won't be playing centre forward much, but I think certainly we'll feel more confident as an Arsenal footballer now, and we trust him, and the fans like him.
Yeah.
Where at a time when actually, I know you were a harsh critic from early doors. You couldn't work out what he was for a long time.
Yeah, I wasn't a critic, but I wasn't. Didn't know what he was. Yeah,
there was There was a lack of confidence in him, I think.
Yeah,
and I think he now goes into next season in a position where actually he's a beloved player in the team now.
Yeah.
And similarly, Saka's injury gave rise to Nwaneri getting a really good shout, but not just Nwaneri. I think Saka's injury was a big part of Gabriel Martinelli's resurgence and return to form, because he stepped up and did a lot for us in the absence of Saka, in a way that I think sometimes he would get overshadowed. And maybe that was actually a breakdown of the right-hand side in general. The White, Odegaard, Saka triangle being missing and various constituent parts of it has allowed the left-hand side of the team to, I think, have their best season for a couple of years, to be honest. Not that they've been terrible, but I think actually a lot of the time the left-hand side has been more dangerous. We've had the ball on that side of the pitch more. Declan Rice's emergence as, the best number 8 in the Premier League and, maybe in Europe at the moment has also been to do with that as well, because he at LCM is carrying the ball and distributing it in a way that's very different to what we've seen there before, certainly to what we saw with Granit Xhaka and so on. And he's got the confidence to do that now. But again, that has been helped by was not having that huge right-hand bias. So actually, there's been the one thing I will make as a kind of a note at the end of that is the injuries have allowed those things. They've allowed the breakthrough of MLS. Where are we going to see MLS?
Yes.
At least this season. So that the positive note, at least anyway, is, and again, a positive for the season as a whole, it forced other players to step up. Some of them to step up and others to actually be direct replacements. And, we've actually got the Saka back up, it turns out. He's 17 and he's still going to need a little bit more work, but I don't think we need somebody to go and play on the right now to fill in for Saka. I think we need to play him a bit more at times. We've got a Martinelli that's firing really well again. We've got a Trossard who I think, again, second half of the season turned up more than he didn't, which is about as good as you get with Leo, I think. But when he was good, he was really good. You've got an MLS that never existed before and now is basically our starting left-back. There's no doubt about that. And you've got a Mikel Merino who hopefully next season is back at home in midfield, but is really firing on full cylinders and feeling like an accepted and trusted member of the squad within the squad and by the fans. And all of those really, really good things to have come about. And also a Jurriën Timber that in the end, the negative side being we ran him into the ground a bit. I think he was never fully fit pretty much throughout the season.
No.
But Ben White's injury did allow him to show just how good he is. And I mean, Christ almighty, you've got who the heck's going to play right back for us for the next few years?
Well, what a great problem to have. And that's the thing. So again, that's one of the positives we can take from the season. And look, and the other player is Big G, Gabriel. He has been. Kivior has stepped up, and we've just seen, wow, he actually is a really good left-sided defender. Now, he is no Gabriel in terms of his presence, his voice, his passion, and all the rest of it. So you do miss that bastard, shall we say, at the back, and the partnership with Saliba. You miss that, but he's minimised any loss around there, and these. Arteta says these are opportunities for other players to step up, MLS has come. But I think the thing is with injuries, and when we make, one, it's the cumulative effect, and then it's the sort of compound injuries, and that's where we suffered. So I called out sort of like the major injuries, but we've just been hit all over the place. And it's just that when you're making do, you can make do for a bit, and then after a while that tells. And so you go through peaks and troughs. You can't get a consistency with a team that are not with their best players. Any team without their best players is always going to suffer. So you can make do for a bit, and then you drop a bit, and then you pick yourself up. But you take your best 5 players out of any team, and you're going to screw over. So again, this is where
and we had no bench. I think that's the biggest thing.
Well,
I think
exactly.
when the accumulated number of injuries was a big part of it, because how many games did you sit there and you felt like we needed something to change? And we've had that in the past, and you look at the bench, and in particular, we just had no attacking options to bring on, right? You had, greatest respect to him, Butler, Ajay, and, Kieran Tierney coming on at left wing. Again, love KT, but he's not my idea of the man I want to bring on at left wing. And that they're the kind of options available to us in a lot of games. And fair play, everybody put in a shift, and everyone who was called on to do various things actually did really well. And you've got to take a huge amount from all that, but the overall impact of the number of injuries and the timing of them and the way that they affected particular areas of the pitch, it is what it is. But it wasn't just a starting lineup issue. It was the fact that you didn't have anyone to call upon in those moments where you needed them.
Yeah, I'm going to skip because of time, the player that surprised you the most this season. Well, actually, maybe not. Just very quickly, anyone that particularly surprised you this season? Something that
I'd
you didn't expect?
fire off three really fast.
Yeah,
MLS was just ridiculously
yeah,
good for an 18-year-old.
yeah.
Wanyeri was I think a pleasant surprise as well because I didn't think he was ready. I thought MLS was ready. I didn't think Wanyeri was from what I'd seen of him. I thought he was too slight. And Mikel Merino because he didn't
Yeah.
surprise me by being quality. I was always a believer, but he surprised me by being a pretty legit number 9 at times. Took a few
Yeah.
games to get him going, but he ended the season looking pretty damn good there at times, I thought.
Well, I've
So,
got
yeah,
his stats. I've got his stats here for later. But yeah, for me, Calafiori. I saw him in the Euros, but I didn't see this Calafiori in the Euros, or maybe I was watching something different. Obviously, I'm Italian heritage. I follow the Italian team, but I didn't notice this, and I didn't know what to expect. But boy, when he comes on the pitch, you cannot miss him. The size of him, the way he plays, he's just so much fun to watch. He's chaos, but I think he's
bloody
the
handsome
good
as
side,
well, isn't he?
good chaos, and there's that as well. I just really hope he can get fit, stay fit for next season because I think we have got a fucking great player there, and he can double up with MLS, and they can give each other a rest, or he can play left centre back. Fucking put him in midfield, put him up front. I don't give a shit. He's just what a player, and I'll be really interested to see what it'd be like with a run of games. I'll be love to see that. So fingers crossed he isn't the Italian version of Tomiyasu. Might be in it. This might be it. Might be shooting fish in a barrel. Who's your most disappointed player of the season?
So I just go straight to 2. So Odegaard, unfortunately, was very high on that, but I
Okay.
think it's massively linked to his injury. I think
Yeah.
um, but he's come back and I really have stuck with believing he needs to be in the team. But it has got to be said he struggled to have the impact that he normally has. He's been
Yeah.
more careless and sloppy a lot of the time than I've ever
Mm.
seen him be. And he's lacked for that little bit of magic to go with it. So, yeah, definitely, I think Martin Odegaard are the players that we own. Of the
Yeah.
players that we don't own, do I even need to say any more? I didn't quite expect Raheem Sterling to be this bad, and he was. I mean, yeah, I only just wanted him to be what he was at Chelsea. He was good at
Yeah.
Chelsea. He wasn't. He was one of their better players for a lot of the time when they were really crap. Extraordinarily surprised at just how bad that was. Because at least with Oda, I can say, if you tell me that the man's going to have a 3-month injury and there's a lot of disruption around him and a lack of the moving parts that he plays so well with, then I can then mitigate. There's mitigations there. It didn't really feel like there were any for Raheem Sterling. This was like his last chance saloon at a big club. And I think now he's staring down the barrel of like who's going to employ him next.
Well, he's got 2 years left on the 2 years left on 350 grand a week at Chelsea. So that's his employers at the moment.
Winston
Yeah,
Bogart
look,
time, isn't it?
yeah. Let's see. Look, yeah, I most disappointed. It has to be Sterling. An utter waste of time and space. He was a body occasionally. I was really hoping he could offer something, but he's just shot. And look again. It's that 500 game mark. I think there's that thing about it. As soon as you hit 500 games, you tail off. And he started from a very young age, and he's hit it very young. And in his role, he's relying on his speed and his pace. And yeah, but I just saw nothing there. Don't know, just literally nothing there. And yeah, I think the only benefit that he may have had, other than being a body to save someone some legs, was he was around at the time where, and in the changing room, and the rumors are, what I've heard is that around MLS, around Waneri, he was a great influence in terms of how to deal with being a footballer and the pressure. And I think he's been a good influence there. So if he's there and been a part of their development, then great. Then if that's what he's done, then that's what he's done. So there we go. So the less said about him, the better. And back to Chelsea you go. Right, last but not least is your player of the season.
Oh, I've put it down, and yet still, when you talk it all out, there's only one man, and it's Decky Rice.
Okay.
Surely. I don't know, mate. Gabriel is really high up there for me, but I think just when I think about the player who's been really significant in all of my best moments this season, and who I think has made, the greatest claim to be, I think, perhaps the best player in his position around in this season. I look around and go, who would I replace him with this year? I can't see anybody that's had a better season for us than Declan Rice in those respects. And I think last season was a tough one for him in the perception of others at times. He had that brilliant start with us when he first came in. Everybody went, oh, he's the number 6 of our dreams. He's the player to push us on to another level. He started playing more as an 8, and people started criticising him and Arteta for that. He's not an 8. Why is he being played at 8? He's not even good enough as a 6, actually. When you look at Partey, he plays on the turn. Wright doesn't play on the turn. And then this season, I love what he's been doing. I love, in particular, his marauding runs down the left, which have just come into his game in a way. He's always been decent progressing the ball, but we're talking about now, actually, he's quite often a forward outlet for those passes rather than necessarily winning a ball or picking it up deep and progressing it from deep. He's quite often progressing it from, if you like, the start of the middle third and taking it right up there into the final third. And his confidence as well as he's grown at having pops at goal, doing things that he wasn't doing before, picking up positions that he wasn't picking up before. I think Declan Rice has been at the heart of everything brilliant about us this season whenever we've been good, and has been a real driving force, certainly for the second half of the season. It was really hard to pick between him and the honourable mentions of Gabriel, David Raya, who both of whom I think have had exceptional seasons. But I just think at the moment, I think he transcended, for me, Declan Rice, and put himself in the frame for overall player of the year across the league. He won't be, because there were Liverpool players that were better, and there were a few.
Yeah,
but
of course.
He was our
best.
It'll be
Salah. Is it? Yeah. No, I agree. It's a hard one because I don't think anyone other than Raya had a complete season. So you talk about Rice, but he didn't really get going until late autumn, the winter. He was still suffering following the Euros, and it took him a while to get going. Big G, brilliant first half of the season, scoring those headers, big man in both boxes, cheerleader in across the board, but then he's suffered the last few seasons. MLS only came big, sort of again around autumn time, and we'll give him young player of the season. Okay, so we don't have to go in, but so the only one really that could say, and this is my second choice, is Raya. Another Golden Glove season for him. And early on in the season, he made a lot of big saves to keep us in games. Villa of particular note, the penalty save against Atalanta. It was the save even the first game of the season against Wolves. And he's a massive part of our team. But I'm going to go a bit left field on this one, just because I think without this player, my God, I don't know where we would.
Not having Calafiori.
Not Calafiori, but it's not quite left field. But imagine where we would be without this player, without his goals, his assists, his general performance, stepping in following a major injury into an unfamiliar role.
No,
almost like a new signing. He's played 28 in the league, 12 in the Champions League, 7 goals in the Premier League, 2 in the Champions League. Mikel Merino. I'm going for him as my player of the season.
I honestly, if either of us were decent enough at editing, I feel like I want to go back and get all the clips of you and Moz talking about Merino at the start of the season.
No, I promise you, I was a bit like Havertz.
You just kept going, I don't know what he is. I don't know what he is. I don't know what he is.
Yeah, but that's fine. But I wasn't against him.
And in fairness, I didn't think he could be what he was, but.
No, and he's not a centre forward, so I still don't know what he is. I think I'm right.
A brilliant professional, and actually, I must admit, if you were going to give it as an outstanding contribution to the team, almost like a teammate of the year.
Yeah,
I think.
Oh, what do you mean the patronising award? Oh, the manager's award.
No. I mean in the genuine, almost like it's almost like the players' player, isn't it? It's the players' player of the year. It's the who was it that made the biggest contribution to this club relative to their perceived ability. It's Mikel Merino. I totally get that. I do get it, and I love it.
For me, it's like we would not be second. We wouldn't have beaten Madrid without him. Wouldn't have got to semi-finals. He just wasn't the person to take us to the next level. But we wouldn't have got to the level we had without him. So I'm going to give him for that, the impact he's had, and just a bit, a bit different to the obvious choices. Like, anyone, we could all pick Rice and Rare and deservedly so, and Big G and MLS. So there we go. So there we go. So look, that's the season done. Those are the awards we're giving out, and I think we're ending on quite a happy, jolly note, even though it didn't go quite the way it did. There's always another season, and the hope starts now. So yeah, and let's see what we got. We got a lot of work to do over the summer. So and look, let's not forget the last 3 times that we were runners up: 99, 20, and 99, 2000, and 2001. We went on to win 2 Premier League titles, 3 FA Cups in the next 4 seasons. So, let's see if history will repeat itself. I'll take one of those league titles for now, and we'll take it from there. So, Jamie, thank you very much. I really enjoyed that. That was actually quite. There's a lot of people going to be somber about a season, but I've enjoyed that. That was nice. That was fun. So thank you.
No, absolutely. Looking forward to a summer without talking to you, without talking about the Arsenal. Well, no, what are we going to do? We're talking about transfers. But I'm looking forward to taking a summer off from actually watching all the matches and, recharge the batteries.
Well, look, the fans, podcasters, players, managers all need a bit of a break. It has been a slog. It's felt like a slog. We've had our moments, but it has been a bit of a slog. But hey, that's football. That's what we've signed up for, and we just have to go along for the ride and enjoy it for what it is, and take everything we can from it.
I'll be gagging for it by the end of June, mate. Gagging.
Exactly. So look, we're going to have a look at next week. We'll mostly do something around transfers and a bit of a depth chart, look at our squad and see what we need to do and what we want for the season. And then there's a whole load of community pods, hopefully, that we'll get lined up that myself and Ian are looking to do. And we've got hopefully some pretty cool guests lined up for that. So if you've made it this far, 1 hour, 37 minutes in, well done. Congratulations. You need an award. And a good job the other 2 didn't turn up, because we would still be here this time tomorrow morning. This time tomorrow, we were talking about it. So there we go. So yeah. Thank you very much if you've listened this season. Thank you very much for your listenership and all your comments. You can find us on live at the Grove AFC on Blue Sky and Threads. And we'll still be around over the summer. And so until the next time, come on you Gunners.